My name is Elena Brooks, and that night I realized trust can be more dangerous than lies. Elena's heart pounded. She had always believed in honesty, in love without games. But tonight, a single text shattered everything. I can't do this anymore. It's over. She let the phone fall onto the coffee table. Its glowing screen reflected her own stunned face. Memories of laughter, whispered promises, stolen kisses, all now poisoned. She thought of Mark, the charming, funny guy who made every worry vanish. But charm is a mask, and tonight his had slipped. Sitting down, Elena hugged herself, thinking of the signs she had ignored. Secret calls, unexplained absences, the faint perfume on his jacket that wasn't hers. How had she missed it all? Their last conversation haunted her. He had smiled, kissed her cheek, whispered, "You're the only one." Hollow words. Betrayal doesn't always shout. Sometimes it creeps, quiet and lethal. She opened her laptop, scrolling through pictures. Each one reminded her of what she thought was love. Her eyes lingered on their first anniversary photo. He looked at her like she was the only person in the world. But behind the camera, someone else existed. Elena clenched her fists. She had always been the good girl, silent, loving, obedient. But tonight, silence would no longer hold her back. It would become her weapon. A plan began to form. Not from anger, but from justice. She wouldn't scream, she wouldn't beg. She would make him understand, in ways he'd never forget, what it meant to betray someone who trusted you completely.
Elena couldn't sleep. Her room felt smaller, suffocating, every shadow reminding her of him. The betrayal wasn't just heartbreak, it was a puzzle she had to solve, a wrong that demanded balance. She thought back to the subtle signs she had ignored. Late-night texts, hurried explanations, fleeting looks of guilt. She had brushed them off, convincing herself she was overthinking. Love made her blind, but now clarity burned like acid. Mark had underestimated her. That had been his first mistake. Elena knew that people who break trust rarely expect consequences. They assume silence is weakness. They don't see the storm brewing quietly behind soft eyes. She opened her drawer and pulled out a notebook. On its pages, she began listing everything. Every lie, every manipulation, every stolen smile she had given freely. Writing it down made the anger tangible, controlled. It was a ledger of betrayal. A strange calm washed over her. She wasn't planning revenge out of rage. She wanted him to feel the weight of what he had done. Every step she planned would be precise, silent, impossible to ignore. Her mind ran scenarios, each one testing boundaries. What would get under his skin without exposing her own pain? How could she make him see her strength without losing herself to darkness? Each idea sharpened her resolve. Elena looked at her reflection in the mirror. The familiar face stared back, but something was different. Her eyes, once soft with trust, now burned with quiet determination. She wouldn't scream, she wouldn't beg, but she would make him remember her. The night stretched on, and with it Elena's plan took shape, silent, clever, and inevitable. By morning, the first step would be ready. The betrayal wouldn't go unanswered.
Morning came, but Elena didn't feel the usual grogginess. Instead, she felt alert, almost electric. She had a mission now, a purpose stitched together from betrayal and quiet resolve. She started small, a message to Mark, casual, as if nothing had happened. "Hey, coffee later?" she typed, the words betraying nothing. No heartbreak, no anger. just calm, measured normalcy. Mark's reply came faster than expected. "Sure, see you at 10." Elena smiled, not because she wanted him back, but because the game had begun. He had no idea what was coming. Each interaction would be deliberate, carefully calibrated, designed to make him question what he thought he knew about her and about himself. By mid-morning, Elena had checked every detail: social media accounts, mutual friends, even his usual routes. She wasn't being paranoid, she was gathering intel. Knowledge was her weapon now. Every post, every comment, every like told her something about him, about his arrogance, about how little he suspected the storm she carried quietly. She left her apartment, walking through familiar streets with purpose. People smiled as she passed, oblivious to the fire in her gaze. It was deceptive, soft eyes, steady pace, but within, strategy churned. She would make him see, slowly, painfully, that betrayal has consequences that no charm can erase. A cafe appeared around the corner, the one they used to frequent together. She ordered her coffee, sat by the window, and watched. Waiting wasn't passive, it was preparation, observation. Every detail mattered: how he moved, who he spoke to, the expressions that flickered across his face. Elena's mind worked like a chessboard. Each piece moved silently, but with intent. This wasn't revenge for attention, it was justice, precise and undeniable. He had underestimated her, assumed silence was weakness. Soon, he'd learn exactly how wrong he had been. By late afternoon, Elena had her plan. Not something rash or explosive. This was subtle, psychological, a whisper of consequences that would make Mark squirm without a single raised voice. She arrived at the office they both knew well. Coincidence? Perhaps. Intentional? Absolutely. Elena positioned herself near his usual cafe hangout, pretending to read, sip coffee, and scroll her phone. Her calm exterior masked the storm within. Mark appeared, laughing with colleagues, unaware that Elena was observing every move. She noticed the faint tension in his posture, the way he paused when she entered the periphery of his vision. He thought he was safe. Elena leaned back, sipping slowly. She sent a brief, seemingly accidental text, meant for a friend, but purposely sent where he could glimpse it. The words: "Some people think betrayal is harmless. I beg to differ." She caught the flicker in his eyes, a micro-expression: confusion, curiosity, unease. Exactly what she wanted. Not anger, not fear, just doubt. A seed planted that would grow, twist, and coil until it consumed him. Later, she allowed a friendly smile when their eyes met, innocent, soft, unreadable, a mask perfected over years of being underestimated. Mark didn't see it yet, but Elena's presence alone was now a constant reminder that he had made a mistake, a fatal mistake. As she walked away, Elena felt a strange satisfaction. The revenge wasn't in confrontation or yelling or dramatic gestures. It was in control, precision, every small action designed to make him question what he knew, what he trusted, and ultimately what he deserved. Silence had become her weapon, observation her shield, and the first strike, quiet as it was, had landed perfectly. By evening, the tension had begun to thicken. Mark's usual confidence was waning, replaced by subtle hesitations Elena noticed instantly. The little things, the way he glanced over his shoulder, the distracted tone in his voice during calls, the slight tremor when he reached for his coffee, these were her victories. Elena stayed composed, almost casual in every encounter. At the park, where they had once walked hand in hand, she appeared with a book in hand, pretending to be lost in thought.
Mark spotted her and froze, not from fear, but from confusion. She allowed him a brief, uncertain smile, the kind that seemed friendly but hinted at knowing more than she should. His mind raced. Why was she there? Why was she calm, untouched? Why did she now radiate a quiet power he had never seen before? Elena's plan wasn't just about making him feel guilty. It was about showing him that betrayal had consequences, even if unspoken. She started leaving little reminders in places he frequented, a coffee cup with a note he would notice too late, a familiar song playing just as he walked past a cafe. Each small act, like breadcrumbs, made him second-guess everything. She remembered their last conversation. His words still echoed, a hollow promise he never intended to keep. Tonight, Elena let herself smile, not from malice, but from the realization that she no longer depended on him for validation. By the time the city lights flickered on, Mark was unsettled. The air between them had changed. Elena's silence had become louder than any argument, her composure sharper than any scream. He didn't know it yet, but she had already won the first round. The final pieces of her plan were falling into place. Elena had observed Mark's routines for weeks, noting every pattern, every small indulgence. It wasn't just revenge, it was a mirror reflecting his deceit back at him. Tonight, she waited at the little bistro where he often met his friends. From across the room, she watched as he laughed, oblivious to the subtle shifts she had orchestrated. A misplaced message here, a whispered hint there, tiny echoes of his betrayal that only he could notice. Elena felt a thrill she hadn't experienced before. Not fear, not anger. This was empowerment. For the first time, she realized that silence could be sharper than words, patience more potent than confrontation. Each move she made was calculated, each gesture deliberate. Mark's phone buzzed repeatedly, a sequence of notifications that drew his eyes. A subtle alarm, a reminder, a note she had cleverly arranged earlier. Trust is earned, not taken for granted. He frowned, glanced around, and noticed Elena's calm presence. His mind raced, connecting the dots he had ignored for too long. The cafe's dim lights caught the briefest flicker of triumph in her eyes. She wasn't gloating. Her satisfaction was quiet, deep, and undeniable. Elena's thoughts drifted to her own reflection. She had learned something essential. Betrayal could break a heart, but it didn't have to destroy a soul. The moment she embraced that, she became untouchable. Mark, on the other hand, realized too late that the girl he thought he knew had transformed into someone else entirely, someone he could no longer control, someone's trust he had shattered and whose patience had become a force of reckoning. Mark finally confronted her, confusion and panic etched across his face. "Elena, what's happening? Why?" She held up a hand, stopping him mid-sentence. No anger in her voice, no tears, only calm, measured silence. He saw it then, the shift he had ignored, the strength he had underestimated. "You taught me what betrayal feels like," Elena said softly, her eyes locked on his. "But I've learned something too. Trust is sacred, and mine isn't given lightly." She let him process that, watched as the weight of his own actions sank in. The man who had once made her laugh now faced the consequences of every lie, every secret, every stolen moment of trust. Elena walked away, head held high, her chest full of quiet triumph. She didn't need to shout or demand explanations. Her actions spoke louder than any words could. Each step she took was liberation, each breath a declaration. She was no longer a victim. Outside, the night air was crisp, a gentle reminder that the world was bigger than betrayal. She smiled, knowing that revenge wasn't about hurting him, it was about reclaiming herself.
And in that reclamation, she discovered power, dignity, and freedom. As she disappeared into the city lights, she knew her story wasn't unique, but it was hers, raw and unfiltered. And maybe, just maybe, someone else watching, someone who had felt the sting of betrayal, would find hope in her silence and strength. If you've ever been betrayed or know someone who has, hit subscribe for more raw, emotional stories. You're not alone, and sometimes the quietest actions speak the loudest.